The better you get at something, the worse you become at seeing it clearly. Not in every way, not in the obvious ways. You still perform better, you still solve problems faster, you still produce work that a beginner could not produce. But somewhere in the process of becoming good, something else happens, something quieter and more dangerous, and almost nobody who experiences it ever notices it is happening to them. In 1942, a psychologist named Abraham Luchins ran an experiment that would spend the next 80 years being rediscovered by researchers in fields ranging from chess to surgery to corporate strategy. He gave participants a series of problems involving water jugs. Each problem required them to measure out a specific amount of water using 3 jugs of different sizes. The early problems in the series could only be solved using a particular multi-step method. Fill this jug, pour into that one, pour into the third. Participants learned the method. They got good at it. It became automatic. Then, Luchins gave them a new problem. One that could be solved using the same complicated method they had learned, but one that could also be solved in 2 steps using a much simpler, more direct approach that was right in front of them. The participants who had been practicing the complicated method overwhelmingly used it again, even though the simple solution was faster, more obvious, and objectively better. Many of them did not see the simple solution at all. When Luchins told them afterward that a simpler method existed, some refused to believe it. They had solved the problem correctly. Their method had worked. The idea that a better method had been sitting right there, invisible to them, was genuinely difficult to accept. He called it Einstellung, the German word for setting, attitude, or mental disposition, the tendency for a previously successful solution to block the recognition of better solutions, not because the person is lazy or uncreative, but because the brain, having found something that works, stops searching. The successful pattern becomes the default. The default becomes invisible as a choice, and the invisible choice becomes a wall. This is not a problem of incompetence. It is a problem of expertise. Researchers studying chess players found that the Einstellung effect was stronger in experienced players than in beginners when encountering certain types of problems. Expert players would fix on the first good solution their pattern recognition system identified, a solution their experience told them was strong, and in doing so would become blind to a superior solution sitting elsewhere on the board. Beginners, having no strong pattern to default to, would search more broadly and occasionally find the better move that the expert had already stopped looking for. The expert's strength, the vast library of recognized patterns accumulated over years, became, in that specific moment, a liability. Their knowledge was getting in the way of their vision. This has been documented in medicine. Studies of experienced physicians have found that diagnostic errors often follow a specific pattern. The doctor recognizes a symptom cluster that matches a familiar diagnosis early in the evaluation, and once that familiar pattern activates, the search for alternative explanations slows dramatically or stops entirely. The condition they see first is not always wrong, but the process of seeing it first makes them worse at seeing what else might be there. The more cases they have seen of a particular condition, the more automatically that condition comes to mind, and the harder it becomes to hold the diagnostic question genuinely open. In surgery, experienced surgeons have been found to persist with a chosen approach longer than is optimal when encountering unexpected complications, because the chosen approach is the one their expertise has built a strong pattern around. Switching to an alternative requires overriding a deeply grooved default. The surgery they have performed 100 times is harder to abandon midway than the surgery they're performing for the first time. In business, the effect shows up in the companies that dominated one era and failed to navigate the next, not because they lacked intelligence or resources, but because the strategies that had made them successful had become so deeply embedded in how they understood their own industry that genuinely different approaches were difficult to perceive as viable. The solution that had always worked made the solutions that might work next nearly invisible. The Einstellung effect is not about arrogance. The chess players were not being arrogant. The physicians were not being careless. The companies were not being complacent in the way that word usually implies. They were doing exactly what a well-functioning expert brain is supposed to do. pattern matching rapidly, defaulting to proven solutions, applying accumulated knowledge efficiently. All of those things are valuable. All of those things in most contexts are exactly right. The problem is that the same process that makes expertise powerful also makes it rigid. The brain does not distinguish between situations where the default solution is optimal and situations where the default solution is blocking a better one. It executes the default and registers the problem as solved. The search ends, the better answer sits there, unseen. Luchins found that the effect could be interrupted with one intervention. Before presenting the critical problem, the one with a simple solution hidden behind the familiar, complicated one, he added a single instruction to the test sheet. A short phrase. It said, "Do not be blind." That was it. Do not be blind. And it worked. Participants who received that instruction before the critical problem found the simple solution at dramatically higher rates than those who did not. The awareness that blindness was possible was enough to reopen the search. Not expertise, not more practice, not a different method or a smarter approach, just the knowledge that the default might be wrong, delivered at the moment it mattered. This is what makes the Einstellung effect genuinely unsettling as you accumulate experience and skill in anything. The more you know, the more certain your brain becomes that it has already found the best approach. The more certain it becomes, the less it searches. The less it searches, the more the better answers accumulate unseen in the space your expertise has taught you not to look. The beginner looks at everything because they have no choice. The expert looks at what they know to look at. And the difference between those two modes of seeing is not a measure of how much either one knows. It is a measure of how much either one believes they still need to find out. The best practitioners in every field have found ways to carry both, to use the pattern library that expertise builds while keeping the searching posture of someone who has not yet found the best answer, to execute with the confidence of experience and question with the openness of a beginner. It's not a comfortable combination to maintain. The brain does not naturally hold both at once. Certainty feels better than searching. The proven solution feels safer than the open question. But the open question is where the better answers live, and the only thing standing between you and them, in the end, is the solution you already found.